So there are some things that many get wrong when thinking about Bitcoin, both who are in the crypto space, but also those who are not in the crypto space. And I want to clear that up, but I want to do it through one single LinkedIn post. So let's get right into this. So Dan Held, if you don't know who Dan Held is, he is an OG in the Bitcoin space. He is you can just look at his description here that says follow me to learn about Bitcoin. He's been involved with Bitcoin for over 10 years, been through many ups and downs and throughout the cycle. So he's a great individual to follow when it comes to perspective and what has happened in history. But I want to actually clue in to the comments of his post. So first, let's read the post. At the end, I'm going to share what my comment was, and that's going to be a great reflection of how I think about Bitcoin and about DCA, which is dollar cost average. Okay, so first Dan Held's LinkedIn post here is, I bought Bitcoin at $100, which, respect to him, that means he was in a long time ago. I bought Bitcoin at 60K, which was near the very top, which was 2021. And I'll buy more at 100K, which is projected to be possibly the end of this year, maybe 2024. Who knows what the timeline will be, but we're all pretty sure it's going to hit that at some point in time. And he says, price doesn't matter. This is a game of accumulation. Okay, so he's bought at 100, he's bought at 60K, and he plans to buy at 100K. He's mentioned he'll buy more than that at a higher price point. And here's the thing, though, is that's called dollar cost averaging. He doesn't care what the price is because the underlying fundamentals of Bitcoin, a trustless system around financial asset that we can own and have generational wealth with, he thinks that's undervalued almost at all times. But let's go through the comments here. So I did have my comment in there, but we're going to skip that for now. He had a comment or two with someone he knows. It's kind of good-natured. And I want to get to this question here. Okay, so first off, this isn't even about a misconception or something to clear up, but it's a very important question, and that is, how much Bitcoin does one actually need? Now, many have said that Bitcoin could go to 500,000, 1 million, 5 million. I've even heard 10 million. So the price matters in terms of what you need in order to be financially free or have generational wealth. It could be 1 million for you, 10 million for someone else, 500K. The number is what you decide. So on average, from what I have heard and seen people recommend, it's always 0.1, 0.2 of a Bitcoin. Okay, that's kind of the general rule here. But this is what I always suggest, is that the goal is to try and accumulate 1 Bitcoin. So, and that's through this process of dollar cost averaging. So for me, if you can get 1 Bitcoin, you're going to be very comfortable. You're going to be well set in the future, in my belief. Okay, but hey, if it skyrockets beyond that, it could be half a Bitcoin, it could be 0.1. Who knows? But for me, 1 Bitcoin, you are in the 1% of the 1% if you can accumulate that amount. So let's go through some of the comments. He's like, no one needs Bitcoin. No one needs Bitcoin. So right off the bat, I understand what he's trying to say, that no one needs it in terms of food, shelter, stuff like that. But the need will be there. The need is there because for the average person to own a financial asset that you actually own, and physically, yes, if it's in a cold storage for you, but it's an asset class that you have access to, and no one can take it away from you if you have personal possession of it. Now he goes on to say it's a place to store value if you have it. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense. As if you have it. Value is value. Yes, it may fluctuate up and down in terms of the price point, but the value here is that you want generational wealth. The value here is that the asset class has only 21 million, and you want a piece of that pie. That's the value, and that value only gets more scarce as time goes on because there'll be less and less of that 21 million available. And but the one who's answering here is actually a chief technology officer in the crypto space. So I understand what he's trying to do. I just don't think he's conveying it well enough. And he goes on to say, I'll answer it in a different way. You need as much of it as you have value to store. And look, the guy who posted this question was like, I'm not sure I get what you mean. and it wasn't very clear to him. He says, I think I've fallen down a rabbit hole with this. So I agree. I don't think the individual here who's in the crypto space is answering that question well enough, or answering it at all. Actually, he's kind of mudding the waters even more. But in terms of how much do you need, that's gonna depend on, one, how much is it that you can actually invest first, right? How much capital do you have to invest? The most amount that you can invest safely, and always with the mind that if it goes to zero, you're not financially ruined. That's as good as it can get for you. No need to extend yourself. But in terms of what do you actually need, like I said, for me, that's one Bitcoin. So there's one thing, right? Like, this is a question from somebody trying to be answered by someone in the crypto space and not doing a very good job of it. All right, so we're gonna move on here to the next one here. And what's the question? So what's the point of this game, and how do you win it? This is someone who's in the crypto space, and look, I understand they're being, they're trying to be funny about it, but the game here really is financial freedom. That's not a game you're not even an eligible player in any other asset class unless you have a significant amount of money. You can't be a player in the real estate game, or at least a significant player, unless you have a significant amount of capital. You can't be a significant player in the stock market unless you have a significant amount of money, or you know how to accelerate your capital quickly. And that's usually with options or things like that. But that's also an advanced technique that people in the space don't even know very well, let alone those who are not financially knowledgeable. So the game here is, how can we find asset classes that we can actually invest in? Because regardless of what the asset class is, the point is to put your money in today so that in the future, it's going to be worth more. If all you have is money in the bank, every single day, every single year, that money becomes worth less. Doesn't mean the money's worthless. It's just worth less. That's inflation. That's the whole point. The dollar you have today will not buy you the same thing 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So the whole goal here of investing is you want to put it into something that's going to appreciate and be worth more down the road versus less. So that's the game. So when he's trying to say this and be funny about it, it's actually a serious thing that I would answer here, is that the point of the game here is that you were trying to accumulate wealth, real wealth, and be financially free, right? And then, so when he says, how do you win it? You win it by breaking free of the system, this rat race that we're in. That doesn't mean you can't still play in the space, right? Everyone talks about either Web3 or Web2. I mean, there's going to be a blend, and it's okay to be in both, right? 2.5, so to speak. That's fine. But you want to have the option that if you ever wanted to break away, you have it. And to me, that's what financial freedom really is about having the option. You want to work, you don't want to work, it's your option. You want to take your jet or take today off and go to Paris and have some lunch, that's an option. Doesn't mean you're going to. You want the fancy car, the home, the vacation, whatever it is. The point is that you have the option to do it if you want. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. So that, to me, that's how you win it, is when you have those options that you could just do it in a heartbeat, and we don't have to think about it. All right. So someone who responds to this is trying to be funny as well. Look, we've got someone else here saying, I thought the game was increasing utilization and adoption. What good is accumulating it for no other purpose? It's like stuffing a digital mattress and then burning the mattress, pointless without utility and access. Some other more useful product will come along and quickly supplant it, and Bitcoin maxis will have done reverse alchemy by turning gold into lead. Yeah, like, these comments are always funny to me because, you got Bitcoin maxis on one end of the spectrum, and they are obnoxious. They are in your face. I told you so. Bitcoin is the only thing that's good and nothing else is going to work. I don't think that's right either. This is a technology play that Bitcoin has been the face of and is the face of. And the Bitcoin network, I'm 100% on board with, and all of the properties that comes with it. But It's a technology play, and there's always going to be advancements to technology. There's going to be more use cases that we don't ever consider, and those who are just accumulating Bitcoin and think everything else is going to fall apart, I think are wrong as well. Okay, but back to this comment here. The game here that he's talking about is utilization and adoption. In some part, I do agree with that. I mean, if you can have more use cases for Bitcoin, more people are adopting it, the average person is then going to start saying, okay, there's value here, it may pile in, and maybe the price point goes up, right? Now you can use it for something. So that's fine. But when he's like, you accumulate it for no other purpose, I mean, what good is accumulating for no other purpose? The purpose is a store of value. That's it, right? Like you are, the easiest and basic way is to say it's like storing gold. But this you can actually transfer peer to peer. This you can actually cross borders with. I don't have to worry about a middleman. So all the things that people love about just storing gold, this is that times 1,000, if not more, 1,000x actually, if not more. So we're not aligned, me and this individual. So he's like, it's like stuffing a digital mattress and then burning the mattress. No, like that doesn't even make any sense, right? I don't need, the utility of Bitcoin is the store of value right now. Now we do have Lightning Network, and where you can then do transactions and things can be broken down into Satoshis, which is our lower denominations of Bitcoin, like just broken down to a smaller unit. So we have all that in place, but even if that's not the case, like no one's actually using Bitcoin to transact with, it's a store of value. And that in itself to me is a utility, okay? And the blockchain and everything that comes with it, that's more than enough. All right, so he's talking about, back in the day, everyone was trying to turn lead into gold. That was like magic, right? So he's saying this is going to be going in the reverse, where something's going to come along and supplant Bitcoin. Look, at the end of the day, nobody really knows long term. I'm talking about 100 years, 200 years. But for as long as I can see, that's not going to be the case. It's not going to be the case at all. Bitcoin has its place. It is the king of the jungle, the crypto jungle, and also one of the only ones that the SEC considers not to be a security. So that in itself, I mean, it's its own place. So I'm not feeling that comment as well. So one of the things that I want to really talk about here is this individual who brings it up, and I know what he's saying. He's like, why buy one Bitcoin at 100,000 when for the same USD price you can mine more than one Bitcoin? And he's like, this is a game of accumulation. So he is on board with accumulation, but he's saying something here that I want to highlight and I really want to highlight here is when most people hear I'm going to buy Bitcoin at 100K or 60K or I bought it at $100, whatever it is, everyone quickly assumes that you're talking about one full Bitcoin because, like most assets, you can't buy a piece of it. So if I want to buy shares in a company, right, stocks, I can't buy half. For the most part, they have fractionalization and all that kind of stuff, but for the most part, typical way of investing is I have to buy one share of something. So if Tesla was at $1,100, $1,200, I couldn't buy $10 worth of Tesla. I had to buy $1,200 and get that one share. So the real big misconception in with Bitcoin is that you have to buy one whole Bitcoin. So if the price is 20,000 today, I need to have 20,000 in order to get some Bitcoin. When in fact, you can decide how much of one Bitcoin you do want to buy. You don't have to buy one whole Bitcoin. So if you can buy $50 of Bitcoin, you can buy $25 of Bitcoin, whatever amount you would like to buy, you can do that. And I know sometimes it's a strange concept, but that is something that is the biggest misconception, is that you have to buy one Bitcoin right out the gate. That's not the case. All right. So this individual who commented on this was also saying the same thing, right? He's like, he's stating that he will continue to buy Bitcoin regardless of the price. So he's kind of hinting at, this whole dollar cost averaging It's not, doesn't mean I'm going to buy one Bitcoin at every price point here, the 100, the 60K, the 100K. It's, I'm going to buy some at that price. Okay, so, look, this individual here, it's not a game, it's a lifestyle, and it's for our children. Clean the space from moronic maxis and things would be so nicer. You understand this better than anyone. Talking about 1 million per Bitcoin when it moves 1 to 2% higher is insane. People get like really crazy about comments or posts, right? Like they're very hardline about what it means. And so when he says it's a game, this guy takes it literal. It's a lifestyle, it's for children. He doesn't like the fact that we're talking about 1 million or whatever the price point is when there's a fluctuation of such a small amount. But Dan's not talking about the last few hours, the last week, the last month. He's talking about a longer investment horizon. In his mind, whenever that 100,000 or whenever that million Bitcoin is, that's in his mind of when that is. He doesn't know when. It could be 10, 15, 20, 50 years from now. Who knows? Okay, so again, one of the individuals that I didn't agree with before, who is in the crypto space, went on to say it's merely a matter of investment horizon. It may move 2% today, but its returns are measured in X's given a sufficient length of time. So 100% agree with that. It's not about the percentages that move today, tomorrow, the next week. It's the long game that we're playing here. It's okay. Everyone likes to call anyone who is involved in Bitcoin as a cult. And so here's what's interesting, right? I told you we're going to talk about people who are in the crypto blockchain space as well as not. And you would think that a lot of pushback usually comes from those not in the space. And while that does happen, a bigger percentage of pushback to Bitcoin comes from those who are already in the crypto space. How could that even be? Because there is a section of people called Bitcoin maxis that are hardliners about Bitcoin, it really flips and puts other people on the defensive that don't want to participate in Bitcoin and then start to be an anti-maxi for no particular reason. So this person is in the blockchain, NFTs, gaming, all that. We won't go into who he is. But what he is saying over here, let's get this back here for you guys. He's like, for all the Bitcoin to 100K people, you legally obligate yourself to buy Bitcoin at 100K on a date we agree, and I will have it waiting for you. Put your cult of personality where your money is. Very, very hard line. Like I'm fed up of people saying they're going to dollar cost average at any price. You Bitcoin maxis, watch when it hits that. I bet you won't buy it. That's pretty much what he's saying. And it's crazy to me, right? Because I can buy, again, this goes back to what I was saying. I can buy Bitcoin at 100K. If I decide to put in $50, it's $50. Like it does. First of all, it has nothing to do with this person. So don't, for anyone to start saying cult and like all that stuff about someone else, it doesn't reflect highly on your own opinions and perception. That means that somebody else, isn't in the right, is really wacky, and you're normal or stable. Now, obviously, that's not a blanket statement, but in this particular case, yeah, like let's write it down. Okay, I'll put $10 down for 100K. $10 down for buying Bitcoin at 100K. Like, the comment has no relevance. There's no impact to what he's saying. All right, so a couple more here. And then what will you do when it does not exist and you realize you've been scammed and the CCP and elites have been using the coin to traffic billion? Look, when I read stuff like this, it's to me, it's in line on the opposite end of the spectrum of a hardliner in any industry, right? Kind of like, you guys, I'm smart, you're dumb. And because the world has not adopted this particular asset class, I'm going to say it's a scam, and you are going to get rug pulled from Bitcoin, and it's being used for all kinds of illicit behavior. Like, man, just miss me with that. Like, he's like talking about Bitcoin goes to zero. As soon as I hear like all these things, we can't even have a proper conversation because you're so on the other side of the spectrum with zero information. This person obviously has done no research, and doesn't care to if you're going to throw things out like that. So let's move on from that. This trading individual does make a good point in terms of if you're looking at just accumulating wealth, kind of short to medium term. He's like, holders are not always the winners. Bitcoin is not just to buy and accumulate. That may end up with missing all of your savings. People with price action knowledge will be smart buyers and sellers. So look, his name is House of Trading, so he's in the trading business. But I mean, if you think about it, and something Bitboy Crypto says, is that like if you've got one Bitcoin and you bought it at 10,000 and then it goes to 70,000 and you held it and then you wrote it back down to when it's 20,000, the opportunity that you lost in that process is significant, right? Most people say that you should do that to get out and kind of not go back in. And I know Bitboy Crypto is different because he's like, hey, look, I just want you to be able to multiply the amount of Bitcoin you have, not to play in and out game, but like if you can sell one Bitcoin, buy one or whatever it is amount, and you can end up having 3 or 4 when it goes down because now you have that cash reserve that you sold the one Bitcoin for or whatever amount it was. I mean, he's playing the accumulation game, but just in a different way. So 100% this guy is right in that regard that holders are not always the winners, but there has to be a timeline to that. Holders are not always the winners short to medium term. But when you look over the long scale, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 years, holders are the winners. And those who try and time the market and do all that kind of stuff, 99.9% of them get burned. Okay, so then here's another person who is actually in the crypto space based on the names that they're using here, but they're like, I think Solana and Polkadot are better. Solana seems like the best DeFi solution, while Polkadot is probably the best for solving all other use cases. So right away, there's an issue here, right? Because we're comparing Solana and Polkadot to Bitcoin. Those two are not, it's not apples to apples. So you can't even compare them. That's like saying, I think my TV is better than my car. That's how I take it. Solving the same thing. It's not the same issue. It's not that bad, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me, right? Now, he even goes on to say that Solana seems like the best DeFi solution. Bitcoin's not trying to be a DeFi solution yet. There is some technology that's happening on it, but they don't care for that. So just to even bring that up, it's already disqualified. It's just, so like I said, people even in the crypto space have issues, okay? So at the end of the day, and we can go on and on and on, but that's kind of what I wanted to cover. And then my comment, which I promised from the beginning here, and I want to read the post again here that I bought. Dan Hill was like, I bought Bitcoin at $100. I bought Bitcoin at 60K, and I'll buy more at 100K. Price doesn't matter. This is a game of accumulation. So my comment to him was, it's a stress-free strategy. Dollar cost averaging, where you are pretty much putting on blinders or blindfold, and you have a repeatable process or system in place that you can purchase, whether it's weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever the regular interval is. You don't care what the price is. So it's stress-free. Like I'm not trying to get in and trying to get out and time it. It's not happening. And I said, let everyone else worry about timing the market. The perma bears are still waiting for $10 Bitcoin. Don't be one of them. Perma bears meaning you're always a bear of the market or bear of Bitcoin. You think it's always going to go to zero, like one of the comments that we read. Don't be one of them. There are too many, in my estimation, okay? There are too many smart individuals. There are too many entities. There's too many companies that are now in this space. The ones we know publicly, and I'm sure there's a vast amount that are in secretly, or at least accumulating quietly, waiting to come out publicly, for you to think that this is something that can go to zero. Now, that doesn't mean throw all of your savings into it and take loans and get in here. Still be smart about it. I mean, you never know. Things could always happen. But that's such a small percentage of possibility to me that I think to continually wait, sit on your hands and wait. Well, look, now it's 20,000. It went to 15, and at 15, people were saying it's going to go to 5. If it got to 5, people would be like 5,000. They say, hey, I'm going to wait till it goes to 1,000. If it goes to 1,000, they're going to say, I'm going to wait till it goes to $10. Like, that mentality will always keep you on the sideline. So don't do that. In my estimation, This is something that you dollar cost average into. You sit, you wait, and you play the long game.